The biggest benefit is the fact that we can lock down our resources, we can lock down the supply chain, we can actually make sure that we have delivery dates that meet the requirements of the client. It really protects us then from those cost overruns, time overruns, from unforeseen conditions on site by moving a lot of the actual construction of the works into an off-site protected environment.
GFMA ensures that there's less waste in materials because you're designing to very specific CNC machines or cutting materials to the exact sizes you need. For example, any offcuts, any waste pieces like this can be reused for our other uses within the assemblies. We would take all our offcuts, all those waste materials, they're all categorised, all saved for future use in other projects.
The construction sector in Ireland has already been embracing MMC. They're looking for options. If a contractor was being asked to consider this and bring it forward as an option for a client, whether it's a housing project, an education project, a health sector project, we start to get scale of demand, we start to get certainty of demand, we start to get standardisation, we start to get perhaps platform concepts.
So from a designer and specifier's perspective, with GFMA, you need to achieve design freeze at a much earlier stage to allow for procurement of materials. Once the project goes to the factory floor, it's like a production line. It needs to flow and continue to flow. You can't have stop-start if you're missing materials. So if there's delays in materials being delivered, this can have huge consequences for the flow on the factory floor. You have to consider this like an assembly line. It needs to be continually moving. All that is planned in at the earlier design stages so that when it goes to production, it's most efficient and optimised design for production or for manufacture on the floor.
It doesn't take a huge variation to actually adapt for the next client that's going to come along. And likewise, clients can start to talk to their own design teams and say, I want you to maximise the efficiencies of the off-site manufacturing sector so that when we go to them, they tell us that they can deliver 280 apartments in 6 months as long as we stick to 4 floor plate types. And the fact that there are efficiencies in the way that I ask for my product, they can set themselves up and that'll drive better efficiencies on their factory floor. We know that maybe 30% of homes are built using timber frames at least. The regulations in Ireland have been quite slow to respond. They respond to demand. They need the sector to say to the Standards Authority, we need to have a standard for this particular aspect of construction, this particular product or this system. And it would be great if we could get to a place where we had platform design based accreditation, system based accreditation that meant that anyone that can manufacture and provide to that system is able to basically deliver those products, because that would probably be the tipping point where we would be able to open up the market and allow for a lot of new providers to enter the market and hence increase capacity in the delivery. One of the other huge challenges that we have at the moment, I suppose, is the mismatch between the policy requirements that we're trying to satisfy, such as housing for all, and the demand for greater capacity in off-site manufacturing and MMC. But as it stands, you cannot use combustible surfaces over a certain height in buildings, and yet we have a huge raw material supply chain of forestry products in Ireland that are ready for sawmills, they're ready to be brought into supply chain. We have this fantastic raw material that's an Irish product, Irish grown, and yet the standards are telling us we can't use it in certain scenarios. So we need to find a solution that would allow us to be able to use timber, and particularly at height, because it's being done in other countries. The standards are able to support it, the fire authorities are able to support it and get to a place where we can actually approve it here as well. I already know that MMC in off-site manufacturing factories, they've had huge uptake in demand. If people are being asked to come and work in a really nice, clean, dry environment, and they're being trained up, they're being given CPD, and they're working in a very high value output, they see the value of their work. And I don't think we're going to have a huge problem actually recruiting people for the MMC sector for off-site manufacturing facilities, because it's a very, very positive place to work. It can be a very rewarding place to work, and it can be a very stable place to work as well.
I think the timing is really good in terms of modern methods of construction here in the Irish construction industry. We have a huge need to improve our productivity and our quality. We also have an ageing workforce, and off-site manufacturing offers much more opportunities for roles that would allow the ageing construction population to continue to work in the industry.
It allows us the ability to actually attract a lot of people from different backgrounds, and even the 51% of the population that are female that perhaps don't see construction as a destination for them. What you're going to see, I think, is a tectonic shift if we move to a huge number of off-site manufacturing facilities, of a big change in the demographic in the workforce. And that will be a big opportunity for construction to actually attract a lot more skill sets, a huge different variety of thought leadership and different approaches to actually delivering projects as well. The mindset that is required, number one, is to appreciate the amount of time and planning and collaboration that has to go into pre-construction works. We use collaboration all the time. I would almost say it's based on the integrated project delivery model, where everyone is rewarded from the positive project outcomes. No one's left behind. That should be dynamic. It should be built on trust, and you need almost an open platform basis where everyone sees the information live at every point in time. And it's really, really important. What's brilliant is when people can touch and feel something, when they can go and see something being demonstrated, when they can actually go and see, well, this is what you mean by a 2D system, here's a volumetric system. The demonstration park actually is going to be very, very important for people to be able to believe. It's not just something that we see in France or in Spain or in Canada, but it's here in the Midlands and Ireland. The last thing that's going to be really important is the telemetrics, the tracking, the monitoring of those buildings, how they're performing. Most importantly, from the horizontal rain that we get in Ireland, that's the most important thing. How does the system stand up to the test from, the inclement weather conditions that perhaps are quite unique to us here?